Hey everybody, so this video is going to be a little strange because I'm going to kind of go all over the place, but if you watched at the beginning, I wanted to dedicate a little bit of time to all the Lipo cells that have given their lives for my testing. So just to be really clear here, I have never destroyed what I call a good lithium polymer battery, and we're going to talk a little bit about C rating, about the internal resistance. We're going to talk about how long your Lipo should last. We're going to talk about getting to know the personalities of your battery, parallel charging. We're going to talk about a lot of different things here. But just so you know, when a battery gets internal resistance to a certain level, it's pretty much garbage. And those are the type of batteries that I end up using to test different types of experiments. But sometimes I'll have a battery that has a cell go bad. So it's a 6 cell and a cell goes bad. I'll actually take that cell out of the series circuit and I have a really good 5 cell for me to test because I'm not going to fly that battery. So understand, I am not destroying perfectly good batteries here. I've had some haters come out and say I'm basically a douchebag for destroying perfectly good batteries. And I've never destroyed a perfectly good battery. I do take some batteries and put loads on them so I can do educational videos like this. So let's dive into this. I'll quit jibber jabbering. So we're going to talk about C rating real quick. Most of you who fly electric understand 90% of what C rating means, okay? So if you take your capacity, like this right here, this cell is a 6,000 milliamp pack. You divide that by 1,000, you get 6, and that's 6 amps. So when you charge it at 1C, which most batteries I have, I charge at 1C, I will charge a 6,000 at 6 amps. But you then have to think about what the discharge is, and I'm going to put on my glasses here to get all technical with you. So let's say we have a 5,000 milliamp pack. So that's 5 amps would be 1C. If it's a C rating of 25, you would take 25 times the 5 amps and you get 125 amps. Manufacturers say that's the safe C rating level, or the 25 is the safe level you can discharge that battery under a load. I haven't gotten anybody to give me the definition of that 125. Does that mean it gets hot? Because anytime you get batteries hot, really hot, you start messing with your internal resistance. So let's say you have a 2200 pack like this one. At 25C, it would be good for 55 amps. At 40Cs, it would be good, at 40C, it'd be good for 88 amps. So if you've got a watt meter like this one, you can plug this into your ESC, run your motor at full throttle, see what your amp load is, and see if you're coming close to hitting what is considered the safe discharge level for your battery. So if you don't know exactly what's going on with your C rating, it's how fast the current can be pulled out of your battery. A high C rating means you can pull more current faster. High C rating batteries normally weigh more than a low C rating battery. Okay, so I hope that makes sense on the C rating. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the internal resistance. And I did a video earlier where we talked about internal resistance, but excuse me, I want to make this even more simple for the very beginning the people that are just getting into electrics. Okay, when you think of internal resistance, think about having a bucket of water and you have a 1-inch hose coming out of it, and you can only get whatever that 1-inch hose will deliver out of the bucket. But if you have a 4-inch hose, it's going to come out of the bucket much, much quicker. So just like the C rating lets your current come out of the battery quicker, a higher internal resistance will restrict that. So if you have an internal resistance between 1 and 10, and some chargers, my charger will do it, you can press a couple of buttons and it will do a 2-second check and it will tell you what the internal resistance, like this battery here has an internal resistance, I always write it on my packs. I normally write it on my pack. Yeah, this one has 5544. So this is still a really good battery. This one has all 4s, still a good battery. This one has 5 and 3/4, and this is a 4 cell. So you have 5, 4, 4, 4 on a 4 cell. This is all 3s. This is still an excellent battery. And, well, hell, I didn't mark that one either. I've got serial numbers on these. I don't know why. I usually write them on the outside of the pack, so I just caught myself screwing up. So what is a safe internal resistance? 0 to 10 is a good battery. 10 to 15 is a battery that's starting to get some flights on it, or you're treating it hard. The harder you treat a battery and the harder you hit a battery with a load and the hotter it gets, the faster your internal resistance will start to rise, at least from my testing. 15 to 20, your battery's getting old. If you're doing it in a glider or just a cub or something, you probably won't notice it and it probably won't matter. If you're trying to fly 3D or like got an EDF, a ducted fan that's going to pull a lot of amps, you're going to start noticing it. And above 20 is normally when I'll retire it to testing. Some of my batteries, when they're in the 18s, I'll retire it to testing. Okay? So, how long should a LiPo last? And I know you guys are all looking at this. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. This is my contraption I made to put loads on batteries, okay? Most of my batteries, believe it or not, last 350 to 400 flights before the internal resistance gets above 15. Now, that's because I always charge them at 1C. I always keep them at storage. If you watch my other video about LiPo health, storage is everything on the life of your LiPo. There's people out there that says, oh, that's BS. I've never discharged mine during the winter. If they're flying a Cub, they might not notice it. If you're flying an EDF, something that pulls a lot of amps, you will definitely notice how fast your battery goes to crap. Okay, so now in years, people have asked me in years, what does that mean? To me, it's cycles. I know the older it gets, you lose a couple of % of capacity a year, but all these batteries here that are still kick-ass, they're 4 years old. But I've treated them well, and they all have less than 150 charges so far, these. These only have about 100 charges on them. This has about 450, and the internal resistance is way up there, but I fly my little park type planes with this battery. This plane's, this battery, I can't believe it's still working. Getting to know your battery, the battery's personalities. This little thing is from Hobby King, and it's called the Battery Medic, I think it's called. And basically what you can do is you can plug it in and see what your individual cell voltages are. You can also balance with this, and it's really cool. So if you've got a battery that's 4.20 fully charged on cell 1, cell 2 is 4.19, cell 3 is 4.18, and then let's say the next cell is 4.2. You can hit balance and it will take them all down to 4.18, and they're all perfectly balanced. I'll tell you in a minute when you're doing parallel charging why it's important to always keep your batteries balanced. Okay? And now we're going to talk about parallel charging. Parallel charging is where on my charger I have 6 leads to charge 6 batteries at one time and 6 balance tabs. So the thing is you need to know about this is that all your batteries have to be virtually the same voltage. So if you fly around and land and all your batteries are 3.85 or 3.84 or 3.86, you can take those batteries and balance charge them. The cool thing is that a 6,000 pack that I charge at 6 amps, if I'm going to charge 4 of these, I'll take 4 times 6 is 24, set my charger on 24 amps, and I can charge all 4 batteries very quickly. But they've all got to be almost the exact same voltage. If you have a pack at 3.95 and a pack at 3.75, what's going to happen is the high voltage pack is going to directly try to start topping off your low voltage. They're going to try to equalize, and it can make some cells or the battery get hot. So if you're going to parallel charge, which I love to do, but I'm also kind of a pathetic nerd when it comes to keeping my batteries all balanced and keeping them all happy. But it's paid off. In 13 years, I've owned 125 LiPos. And if you saw my one video, I've had 14,600 charges without ever having a fire. Okay, and before you haters say nobody could have 14,600 charges, this airplane up here takes 6 LiPos. I've got over 1,000 flights on it. So that right there is 6,000 charges. Okay, Einstein's haters. So now let's talk about this contraption here. Okay, and I'm going to put on my glasses because I don't want to blow anything up. So these are 50 watt, 12 volt lamps. Okay, so 5 of them is 250 watts, 10 of them is 500 watts at 12 volts. Each of these patch bays runs into the bus that controls bank A and B. So I have 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20, and on. If I want to run a 3-cell battery, which is 12.6 volts, I'll set this up for 12 volts. Now, I am 0.6 volts over, but you lose some voltage through all my wiring. Plus, I've got digital readouts here to make sure I don't ever see anything above 12, because above 12 could kill the life expectancy of these 12-volt lamps, okay? So right here I'm at 12 volts, here I'm at 24 volts, here I'm at 36 volts, and here I'm at 48 volts. If you look at the battery cell count, a 12S battery is 50.4 volts, okay? This only goes to 48 volts, but the voltage loss through my wires and everything, basically these are all at like 11.9 volts. They're not at 12, so I'm okay. So let's dive in and play around here for a minute. I also want to talk about amperage here, because I was so fascinated when I first got into electrics, and I was wrong. I got to be honest. I preached to some people for a couple of years some data that was absolutely wrong, because I was forgetting about look, when you take a low kV motor, like 150 kV motor, like I fly on the MSL 1 and 2, you have a 14 pitch prop on that. And there's some math that goes into, as you turn more RPM, the higher the load you're putting on that motor. So the way I always did it was I would start with like 8 cells and start adding the cells until I got to the 160 amps that the speed controller was designed not to exceed. And I thought that was a sweet spot. But what I was forgetting is by going from 10S to 12S, I was actually going to lose about 20 or 30 amps. Even though the prop's going to go faster and gain a higher load, it's still less than the 160. So I actually drop about 10 amps on the system, which it took me a long time for my mind to figure out what the trade-off was with the load on the prop and how much I was raising the voltage to drop the amps for the same given watts. Okay, so I'm going to do some really basic little experiments here. So what we're going to do, make sure I got my pencil because I'm going to write down some notes. I'm going to take a 4S battery, and I got to make sure I get all my polarities right, guys, because I have blown stuff up. And I know you would love to see that. And I know I get more YouTube watches that way, but I don't like to blow up perfectly good batteries. So I'm plugging in my Hobby King battery medic, and right now I'm at 4.19 volts on all 4 cells, which means this baby is perfectly balanced. 4.19, okay? Which gives me 16.62 volts here. I need to make sure I'm set up for 12 volts real quick. So when I plug this in, I'm going to quickly write down what my amps are and what my watts are. Now keep in mind, in theory, I should have a 500 watt load on this right now, okay? But we're going to lose some of that through all my wiring and stuff. So let's see. Hang on, everybody. I got to concentrate for a minute. I do not want to blow anything up. So let's plug her in. So right now I am, was that 14 volts? Oh, see, I just made a mistake. This isn't the 12S battery. This is a 4-cell, and at 4 cells, I need to be at 16.8, so I actually need to be plugged in here. So that's one reason I got these meters here, because it said 14.1 volts, which is too much for these. So now I plug it in. I need to double check, everybody. I hate doing this on a video because if I do something wrong, I'm going to broadcast it. So let's plug her in now. Okay, so now we're at 8 volts there. And right now my 4.19 went to 3.96 volts. So I'm at 3.96. I am at 31 amps at 482 watts. Okay, so 500 watt load. I'm losing some wire. The voltage started dropping. So I started at 4.19 volts per cell. I dropped to 3.96, but as soon as I took the load off, I'm back to 4.1. So I recovered to 4.1. So I'm going to talk in a minute about the telemetry on one of these gadgets here and how it screws up my flying sometimes with what I'm hearing, with what I'm really doing to the batteries, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what happens when you fly parallel packs in your airplane. So I'm going to set this battery over here, and I'm going to grab 4 batteries here. Okay. This right here is a harness that is designed for what I call 2P. So if I'm flying 10S, it'd be 10 in series, which is 2 5-cells, or a 6 and a 4-cell. 2P, which means parallel. So I'll have 4 batteries here. So I'll have a 4-cell and a 4-cell and a 6-cell and a 6-cell, or whatever I come up with, I'm running them in parallel, which means this 6,000 milliamps in the aircraft, 2 of those gives me 12,000 milliamps, and I get long flights that way. That's how I get my 10 to 12 minute flights out of my big electric, when all of you gas haters, electric hater gas guys go, oh, you can't get more than a 4-minute flight out of an electric. Well, bottom line is you're full of crap, okay? Because I've been doing this for 13 years now. So let's plug in this doohickey here. And I got to get this right, guys. I don't want to blow up any of my batteries. Plug in that. Plug in that. Plug in that. To that. Move those out of the way. These are all 4 cells. So I'm going to have 8S2P here when I'm done. So 8 cells in series, 2 parallel. 8S2P. Got that to the right polarity. Got that to the right polarity. Got that. And now that I'm doing 8S, I'll be at 33.6 volts, which means I need to go down to the next setting here. That's my 36 volts. And I'm only going to be hitting it with 33.6, so I'm fine. Going to hook up my watt meter here. I do want to plug this into one of my batteries to see how much the cells drop. So right now I am going to be putting about a 1500 watt load on it. And we're going to see what happens. And pray that I got all my polarities right. So right now I'm at 4.18 volts on this battery. All these were balanced. So I'm starting at 4.18 volts at 8S2P. And let's launch her. So I am at 10.9 volts per line. So I'm under that. My cells have only dropped to 4.05. So hang on a minute. 4.05. I am at 37 amps. And I am at 1350 watts. 1350 watts. So let's unplug that for a minute. So here's what's really cool. When you're 8S2P and you put, and I'm making up a number from it. Let's say we put 100 amps on it, load. Each series is only seeing 50. You're splitting it. That's the reason when I have 160 amps on takeoff on my MSL2, each of the parallel packs are only seeing 80 amps each. So I'm not exceeding my C rating. If I were to try to fly straight without parallel, that 160 amps would be hitting those batteries directly, and I would be right at the top of my C rating, or exceeding my C rating. So that was 8S2P. So now what's happened when I put 3 of these in series, which gives me 12S. Set this aside. And I'm going to do a lot of experiments like this in future videos, everybody. I need to get this out of the way. In a minute, I'm going to tell you why this telemetry wire right here on this screwed me up in the air a couple of times and really made me think I was ruining my batteries, and I wasn't. So now I want to put these in series, which is always weird because you're adding your positive and your negatives. Okay, I need to lay this out to make sure I truly got a series circuit here. So I got to plug that into the negative. And because I'm going to be at 12S here, wait a minute, I want to plug in my watt meter, or there's no reason to do this, because I want to know how many watts and amps I've got, right? Okay, positives are right. I should be seeing, I got 49.5 volts, which is right, which means I got to move this jumper down to here, which is my 48. Plug that in there. So now I should be putting a 2,000 watt load on it. And we're going, I got to plug in my cells here to see how much my cells drop, which they're not going to drop much at all because I've got really high. So now we're starting at 4.16. Keep in mind, these were 4.18 before I put that load on it, so we just pulled a little bit of voltage down. So this is going to be cool and bright. So I plug this in, and I always check, and I'm at 11.8. Oh, I won't plug in all the way because it arced a little bit. There it goes. So I am right now, okay, my cells only went down to 4.11. 4.11. I'm at 39 amps, and I'm at 1850 watts. So think about that. I'm at 39 amps at 1800 watts. Okay, woo, a lot of arcing there. So, let me unplug everything. So, let's think about that for a minute. We started, whew, I can smell that arcing right there when I took that apart. So when we started on 4S, we were at 31 amps at 482 watts. 31 amps. Then we went to an 8S, and we were at 37 amps at 1350 watts. So our amps only went up 6 amps. Oh, no, hang on. Yeah, 6 amps. We only went up 6 amps, but we tripled our wattage. Then we just went to 12S, went to 39 amps at 1850. So the higher your voltage is, the lower your amp load is going to be on your system. That's the reason you want 12 or 14S. It just makes it so much easier on your system. So I hope this all makes sense, everybody. I could spend hours experimenting here and showing you how all this works, but I have learned so much about the load on my system. Oh, and the fact that that battery only dropped to 4.11 under that kind of a load. And keep in mind, it dropped to 3.96 when it was a 4S. It was a huge load. You know, we had 31 amps only on 482 watts. But then we ended up at 12S at 39 amps on 1850 watts. And you can do the math, the watts times amps and all that crap if you want. I like to do it this way because I think it's fun, and you might just blow something up. So we're going to talk about telemetry, and then we're going to finish this video. So this right here is my Futaba S-Bus telemetry for voltage. When I fly 10S, a fully charged airplane is at 42 volts. I set it up so that I get a warning in my ear, because I got an earbud plugged into my radio, that if I get to 38 volts, it basically says warning, kind of like on a fighter jet where it goes bingo fuel. So if I hear that warning, that means my voltage is getting low. So when I take off at 42 volts, which is normally it's 41.9 is what I hear every 15 seconds, just a soft 41.9, 41.9, you know, every 15 seconds, and it doesn't bother me, okay? I'm a nerd. I go to full throttle and I hear 39.9. It instantly pulls it down to 39.9 volts, which is 3.9 volts a cell. So I fly around and I hear it recover to like 4.41 volts, which is 4.1 volts a cell. So I'm flying around just doing my things. I might go to full throttle and I hear it suck the volts down. But one time I had to do a go around because a guy flying a styrofoam cow, can't remember, a Norman, it's an awesome airplane. So this Norman airplane was flying around low in front of me, and I just got a little spooked, decided to go around. I firewalled the MSL2, and I hear, warning, 31 volts, the warning. I'm like, 31? You know, I don't want to get below 3.7, 37. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I put the nose down on the plane, I pull the throttle back, and then I hear 38 volts, 38 volts. And I'm like, okay, it recovered. I come around, I land, I taxi, and I pull my battery out. I put my tester on them. They already all recovered to 38.5 volts. So it's very possible under a heavy load, you could pull your batteries down to 3.2 volts a cell, which sounds horrible. And it might be horrible. And as long as your battery's not real hot when you land, you know. But it scared the crap out of me the first couple of times that I'd hear my cells get drawn down that much. Keep in mind, I've got a 150 kV motor, though. It is going to suck the juice out of my batteries. So I hope this is all kind of educational and helpful to you guys. And look, the biggest reason I do this is because I use science, physics, and facts. Because you haters that go out and read something on Google or tell me, oh, Damon, I read it in a book and the book says you're wrong, kiss my ass. Because if I'm doing it here in front of you and sharing the data with you, you know, quite frankly, there's something wrong with you if you won't believe in science and won't believe in facts. Okay? So I want to become kind of like that Punisher guy on the Netflix series, to go around to all you haters and make you quit spreading this BS to all the people who are trying to learn something in electric. There's so much noise out there from you haters that are just so full of crap that's the reason I do these kind of videos. So if you won't believe in science, look, if you're a flat earther, fine, just go somewhere else. You know, go step on some Legos or something. But here's the thing. This is math, people. This is really simple if you break it down and want to learn. Okay? It goes back to that whole thing about that idiot saying there is not a single saltwater solution to discharging a Lipo. I have proven that wrong scientifically, and if you still don't want to believe it, you can kiss my ass. Go watch my video on it. I've got people that backed it up. Hell, if the military uses it as standard operating procedure to get rid of their Lipos, they're not wrong also. So, I'm sorry, I digressed there. So I'm done with this video, everybody. If you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe. If you want more content like this, tell me what you want. I don't like to blow things up because I think other people will blow stuff up. And I don't want anybody getting hurt, okay? I am going to do some destructive stuff. You know, if you look at this cell right here, that was where I took a 3-cell and basically almost dead shorted it to see what would happen with internal resistance. And basically I dead shorted it too long because the plug arced together and I couldn't pull it apart, and it actually burned 13 gauge wire in half, which became a fuse. So rock on, everybody. Have an awesome day. And look, do this stuff safely. Don't go out and do something stupid, okay? Try to take science and facts and physics and make your life cooler. Rock on, everybody. Have an awesome day and be safe.